Welcome to my presentation. Today I'll be covering the 4 analysis pieces that I've been working on throughout the semester, as well as a little bit of their social commentary, and we'll be getting into the hero's journey and how each story fits and differs from the hero's journey, what makes it special about that, and just the overall thoughts on the hero's journey as well. So here we go. Alright, so the hero's journey looks a little something like this, where there is a protagonist who gets a call to adventure while he's in his current known world. There is an aide, there's a mentor, there is threshold guardians that transfer him into the unknown world. Then there is challenges and temptations along with the mentor and helpers and everything, and then there is a revelation while he is at the depth of the unknown world. And then there is a transformation of the character, atonement for the character, followed by a return to the known world with a newly transformed protagonist. That's how it usually goes. This formula of the hero's journey is a tried and true formula that has been identified within so many famous stories. And once you understand the hero's journey, it seems to be applicable to almost every story. Every story fits the mold of this hero's journey, this pathway that they always take. Dozens of famous stories follow this example. Some of them, most notably, are The Lord of the Rings, probably the most famous one. That was all of the Tolkien literature and lore. Harry Potter, The Matrix, Finding Nemo, just about every Marvel movie, and then some, honestly. I mean, it's everywhere. Now, like I said, I will be analyzing these pieces of content in association with the hero's journey. The content that I will be reviewing today and analyzing is a story, Lust Punished by Foxes, which was in our class literature. It's the one that I studied within my small group discussion. I'll be discussing Parasite, which is a film, Wolf of Wall Street, also a film, and Fight Club, also a film. My plan for this presentation is to give you a summary of each of the 4 stories. I'll relate it back to the hero's journey, and then I'll compare and contrast how they fit in, and just some side notes with it. Lust Punished by Foxes was a piece of literature that revolved around 2 main characters, which was a husband and a wife, that lived in the Chinese countryside, and they were pretty secluded. The husband would often take trips to a nearby city/village community, and his wife would stay home along with the maid. One day, a traveling friend of the husband comes to stay, and the husband is away. He goes to somewhere for business. He's away from the home, and the wife makes food for herself, the husband, and the maid, and the food is spiked by lustful fox spirits that had been haunting the family for a while. The fox spirits had snuck into a storage container of the husband's and taken some aphrodisiacs from him, which are sexual enhancers for, they're like medication, they're drugs that you can take that increase your libido and stuff. And the wife then tried to have intercourse with the husband's friend, and the husband's friend rejected her. And after the husband's friend left, the husband came back to find her wife having attempted suicide, and he revealed to her that this was all his own fault. He was being punished by the fox spirits for his own lustful behavior. He was being nefarious and having affairs with other people in the village, and he changed his ways, and the fox spirits went away. That's the whole story. The Wolf of Wall Street you might be more familiar with. It follows the story of Jordan Belfort, who is a real-life person. He was born into the middle class. He was working as a stockbroker for a while, eventually started trading, and had developed a really good salesmanship model, and he recruited and built a very large stockbroker company, and his whole story is basically just about his own greed and his own lustful excess living, um, that eventually leads to his downfall. He has criminal investigations that strip away all of his financial assets. His wife ends up leaving him along with his daughter, and he like loses a lot of his friends and stuff along the way just because like his reputation. He's like not very close with his dad and stuff, and he has to like go through a very treacherous process of quitting his drug addictions and everything like that. So the story isn't like very happy. It's deviating a little bit from the hero's journey in the sense that it's not like a very typical heroic story. If anything, it's a little bit of an anti-hero kind of a story. Fight Club was another one of the movies that I compared directly with Wolf of Wall Street. If you've seen the movie, you'll know that it has kind of a twist around three-fourths of the way through the movie, kind of a little bit of a twist ending. And I feel like in general, twist ending movies don't typically follow the hero's journey. Maybe something like The Sixth Sense could be fit into the hero's journey category, but as far as Fight Club goes, it's also a little bit of an anti-hero kind of a story. The protagonist is battling a lot of depression and a lot of mental illness issues. He has insomnia, and he goes to a lot of support groups for his made up illnesses. He doesn't go to support groups for the illnesses that he actually has. He eventually starts an underground fight club, and that becomes his new support line, along with a lot of other like struggling male characters. And he eventually sets up different fight clubs in different parts of the city, and in the end it's revealed that the person who actually set up the fight clubs was like an alter ego person of his that he didn't really like have full control over until the end, and he ends up destroying a lot of banks to reset people's debts so that everyone was like set back at zero. The film has a lot of overtones of like consumerism, and it's a stare directly in the face of like capitalism and how it like makes the rich richer and keeps the poor right where they are and stuff like that. All right, moving on, we have Parasite. This one's probably my favorite. It shows a family of very low class people that are struggling in poverty in Korea. And the son has a friend that he went to school with who's now tutoring a very wealthy family. He's tutoring their daughter in English, and he happens to also be very good at English. And the original tutor goes away for schooling purposes, and through the help of the son gets the rest of his poor family hired, being various workers for the rich family. The dad is a driver, the mom is like a housekeeper, the sister is an art therapist for their youngest child, and he is the math tutor for their daughter. And the whole film is very interesting. It has a lot of social commentary on class roles as to like the ethics of both the lower and upper classes when it comes to like how they treat each other, how they interact, and how they discriminate against one each other, both in their own respective ways. The plots of these stories all have in common that they are missing pieces of the hero's journey in them. I know I kind of rushed through them, but those of you that are familiar with the works, you'll understand. Fight Club's famous plot twist is that the man he created the Fight Club with was a hallucination brought on by insomnia, and the secret mission of the Fight Club was to bomb the buildings of major credit card companies to erase the debts. While Fight Club does have powerful messages about society in general, it is more of a series of unfortunate events or a descent into madness rather than a hero's journey. There's no real atonement, there's no return to the normal world, and it doesn't satisfy the typical hero's journey. There are some trials and tribulations, I guess, through creating the Fight Club, but that's really it. And the Wolf of Wall Street is a story of excess. Every scene has features of high class luxury and depictions of lust and greed embodied by money, models, drugs and indulgence in all kinds of expensive events. It epitomizes the American dream and is an invaluable commentary on unchecked ambition and greed. Both films have clear elements of the hero's journey that is missing. Like in The Wolf of Wall Street, there is also, I'd say, no atonement. There's no real mentor or helping hands. It's more like the world is my oyster and I will conquer it, and the only thing that's going to stop me is going to be me. I'd say the real difference between The Wolf of Wall Street plot summary and the typical hero's journey is that there is never a true transformation of the character. The whole story is about a rise to power followed by a dramatic fall from power. There's no real revelation that the protagonist undergoes. Additionally, with Parasite, it's also not a very satisfying ending. I feel like the main character is the poor family in general, but I could also say that the main character is the richer family. I feel like it's a very well balanced film that more so juxtaposes and poses questions about social interactions between higher and lower class. I don't see it as a hero's journey film. I see it way more as an artistic piece, kind of a thriller, mystery, almost kind of a thing. It ends with the son buying the house that he worked in, that the dad also killed some of the family members in, and they avoid the police by using like a secret room that they found in it. But also in that same story, there is no real return to the normal world. I feel like in stories that have the traditional hero's journey layout, like within The Lord of the Rings, there is a very clear shift from the unknown world back to the known world when the hobbits like go back to the Shire and they are free from evil after having gone through this crazy journey. Same thing with Finding Nemo. And although all these stories are not quite fitting the mold of the hero's journey is an extremely vague outline. It works so well and is applicable so easily because it is so broad. I mean, the hero's journey, if it were a perfect formula, the hero would be the same hero that is in The Hobbit. It would be the same hero that's in The Matrix and all those other movies, but the important thing that differentiates those characters are their own personalities. The hero isn't always the same. Usually it's like in these stories it's an anti-hero, and the pieces of the hero's journey that it's missing really kind of leave the audience with something to think about. There's an unsatisfied portion that causes reflection from the audience. Now, I do think that the hero's journey is still relevant. It's obviously a very successful template. It works with pretty much every story. I mean, if you really, really forced it, you could still apply the hero's journey to these films that I say do not technically fit it. But I think that what it lacks in specifics, it makes up for in its broadness. I mean, it's a very simple template to follow, so it's easy to apply to a lot of things, but it's becoming less the meta for cinema specifically. I feel like people value films more now that are not as clear as the hero's journey would make you think that it is. I think that films that receive like critical acclaim, like as an art form from the Academy or from the Oscars or anything like that, there's a unique tone to them that doesn't usually fit within basic storytelling things like the hero's journey. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you've seen any of the movies and stuff, let me know what you think if the hero's journey does or does not apply to that. And thank you for listening. Goodbye.